Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before starting the video, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button and give this video a like up. Young and Restless blindsided fans with the reveal that Tracy's fiancé was the sick freak behind Sharon and Phyllis kidnapping, leaving us not only a fear for the beloved Abbott, but also to try and figure out what his motivations could possibly be. As it turns out, the real reason behind the plot might not be what you're thinking at all. Even more unbelievable than Phyllis not returning Daniel's calls right after he agreed to join the team at Abbott Communications was the idea that Sharon would go missing yet again on Young and Restless after all she'd been through. But that's exactly what happened. Both Phyllis and Sharon went MIA, and we soon discovered they were locked up in an abandoned mental facility, together. What ensued was nothing short of what you'd expect. Loads of bickering brought to a fever pitch by panic, with fleeting moments of cooperation. Not to mention comic relief, thrown in for good measure. They soon learned they were part of an experiment, seemingly to test whether or not they could work through their considerable differences in order to survive. Just as realization was dawning on Sharon that they might not be freed anytime soon, Young and Restless viewers learned who their captor was, and it was a shocker. We came up with a pretty solid theory as to why Alan/Martin targeted Sharon and Phyllis, but we still had to question why the writers would put Sharon through this again. So soon after her ordeal with Ian and Jordan, Phyllis too had been through the ringer with Heather's death and nearly being killed in a car wreck. No sooner did they start to get back on their feet than the rug was pulled out from under them. Why? If you've been paying attention to the way this has played out, you may already have a clue. The kidnapping took place immediately after Valentine's Day, which featured Sharon imagining a reconciliation with Nick and Phyllis dreaming of reigniting her old spark with Billy in Paris. When it was revealed that Sharon and Phyllis had both gone missing, the story centered around Daniel, Summer, and Nick, with Chance being pulled in to help investigate their disappearances. It wasn't long, however, before Billy got in on the action, and it's worth noting that he's been like a dog with a bone since he discovered Phyllis might be in danger. He kept calling her burner phone relentlessly. Fast forward to the present, and we have, not Daniel and Nick, but Billy and Nick, racing the Havenhurst, like the proverbial white knights to save the damsels in distress. It stands to reason, then, that the plot may have been conceived by the writers as a means of reigniting the feelings teased in the Valentine's daydream sequences between Schick and Philly. Still not convinced? There has to be some sort of payoff for the Sharon character after all she's been through. What better than a do-over with the man she's never stopped loving? As for Philly, while that pairing seems less likely given he's still in the honeymoon phase with Sally, Young and Restless teased a Phyllis/Billy/Sally love triangle this year, and with Phyllis and Billy working side by side, it's not a stretch. Phyllis has already been dreaming about Billy, and his protectiveness of her is clearly evident. Should the rescue Macon realize there are still feelings there, it's only a matter of time. Be sure to vote for what you want to see happen below. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows over Genoa City as Billy Abbott strode into Crimson Lights, his usual smirk dimmed by a nagging sense of unease. He wasn't sure why, but something felt off. His instincts, honed through years of gambling, risk-taking, and barely scraping by, told him trouble was brewing. Nick Newman, seated at a corner table, sipped his coffee with an impatient air. He glanced up as Billy approached. "Got your text. What's going on?" Billy asked, sliding into the chair across from him. Nick set down his cup, his jaw tight. "It's Sharon and Phyllis. They're missing." Billy's smirk vanished. "Missing? What do you mean missing?" "No one's seen them since last night. Sharon was supposed to open the coffee house this morning, and she never showed. Phyllis didn't check out of her hotel. Calls go straight to voicemail." Billy exhaled sharply, his mind racing. "Maybe they're together. A girls' trip?" Nick shook his head. "Sharon was supposed to be at work. And Phyllis, she's been acting strange lately. She mentioned something about looking into something big." Billy ran a hand through his hair. "You think they're in trouble?" Nick's face was grim. "I know they are. It didn't take long for them to track down the last place Sharon and Phyllis had been seen. Surveillance footage from the Grand Phoenix showed them leaving together, getting into Phyllis's car. But then the trail went cold. Billy and Nick drove along the route Sharon and Phyllis should have taken. As they passed through an industrial district on the outskirts of town, something caught Billy's eye. A familiar red sports car, abandoned near an old warehouse. There, Billy pointed, and Nick slammed on the brakes. The car was empty, the driver's door slightly ajar. Nick's gut twisted. They were here. Billy knelt beside the vehicle, noting scuff marks on the pavement. Something happened. They didn't just walk away. A noise from inside the warehouse made both men freeze. A muffled voice. A struggle. Nick and Billy exchanged glances. No way, they were waiting for backup. Inside the warehouse, Sharon and Phyllis were tied to chairs, facing a man in a dark suit. His voice was low and menacing. "I warned you, Phyllis. You should have stayed out of this." Phyllis, ever defiant, smirked. "You'll have to forgive me, but staying out of things isn't really my style." Sharon shot her a look. This is not the time for sarcasm. Their captor sneered. "You think this is a joke? You have no idea what you're involved in." Phyllis lifted a brow. "Enlighten us." The man didn't get the chance. A loud crash echoed as Nick and Billy burst through the door. The captor's eyes widened as Nick charged forward, his fist connecting with the man's jaw. The thug staggered back, but Billy was right behind him, landing a second punch that sent him sprawling. Nick turned to Sharon, quickly untying her. "Are you okay?" She nodded, eyes wide with relief. "We are now." Billy freed Phyllis, who rubbed her wrists. "Took you long enough." Billy smirked. "You're welcome." Before anyone could celebrate, the captor lunged for a weapon. But Billy, anticipating the move, grabbed a nearby metal pipe and swung, knocking the gun from his hand. "You just don't learn, do you?" Billy muttered. Nick restrained the man as Sharon called the police. Within minutes, sirens wailed in the distance. Later that evening, at society, the four of them sat around a table, nursing drinks. The adrenaline had worn off, leaving exhaustion in its place. "So what exactly were you investigating, Phyllis?" Nick asked, giving her a look. Phyllis smirked. "Just a little corporate espionage. Turns out, some big players in town have been moving money in places they shouldn't." Billy rolled his eyes. "Of course. And you didn't think to." "I don't know. Tell someone before diving headfirst into danger." Phyllis shrugged. "Where's the fun in that?" Nick sighed. "Well, next time. Let's not make this a habit." Sharon smiled at him. "Thanks for coming after us. Both of you." Billy lifted his glass. "What can I say? We may fight like hell, but when it comes down to it, we're family." Nick clinked his glass against Billy's. "To family." Phyllis smirked. "And to always keeping things interesting." They laughed, knowing that in Genoa City, trouble was never far away. But tonight, at least, they had won.